This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Mike Murphy.
Thank you, Charlie. Yes, I am Mike Murphy, host of the Good Neighbor Podcast. We interview local business owners, influencers, people that I think you need to know, whether you're a resident or a fellow business owner. And today I have friend Drew Wilson with me. Drew, he is with Kensho LLC. They are a marketing and consulting firm. There's a lot that Drew and Kensho can help you with. So there's no way in heck I'm going to try to speak to that. So yeah. Drew, that's your job. So Drew, welcome to the show and tell people a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Mike. And, what we really kind of try to do is we try to be a trusted point of contact for small businesses. And, our kind of target are predominantly the blue collar service-based, trades. Mm-hmm. And so, we kind of started about 11 years ago was when my business partner started doing this. He looped me in just a few years ago. And I came from a normally, kind of white collar-ish background, went to college, got my degree, but growing up always had a blue collar side to me. Okay. Doing different projects around the house. We grew up in a 115-year-old home. So
you weren't afraid to get dirty?
Absolutely not. So replaced everything under the sun, even some things we probably shouldn't have done ourselves. But
some lessons are harder to learn than others.
Yeah. So luckily everything's good. But anyways, that's kind of how we started and kind of my quick background. So I've always kind of had both sides. I haven't just been that white collar or blue collar. So with what we do, we kind of blend both of those. We bring kind of the white collar mentality, staying organized on top of things, communication, mm-hmm. To the blue collar businesses that, are trying to just survive and, run the day-to-day operations.
So they do what they do and you just try to support that by helping them do the things they don't know how to do, or there's not their core strength, things that they need, but they don't know they need maybe?
Yeah. So really we kind of fill in the gaps. So each business is kind of different. But what we find a lot of times, one of the very common ones is usually communication is mm-hmm. a problem for a lot of them, which can cause lots of issues, especially with customers, if you're not able to communicate with them in a timely fashion, or you didn't communicate the right information to them. They felt like they weren't aware of something. So that's a big piece of it. But overall, we are a top to bottom, marketing and consulting agency. And so we do everything from managing SEO to website, maintenance and ongoing support there to, a custom CRM solution. And, we help set up all of these things for our clients, and that's included in the marketing packages.
So do you start out when you find a prospect and you've identified, okay, I think that we can work with them? Do you do a kind of a fact find discovery thing?
Yeah.
How long does that process take usually?
So a call, we usually can get a call in the schedule within 2 to 3 days. And the initial discovery is going to be anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. And I handle all of the discovery and kind of fact finding. And so really what I'm doing there is I'm going to learn about kind of where you started the business, why you started, what kind of the big goals you have for the business are, and then what are kind of the biggest challenges that you feel are preventing you from achieving those goals. And what actually kind of ironically happens a lot of times is they think that, their problem is this, but after kind of doing that discovery, we find out that it's something mm-hmm. different. And so even if it's somebody that just, hey, it's not in the cards right now and doesn't want to move forward, there's nobody that doesn't thank me after and say, hey, that was really helpful, even just by helping them kind of open up, see a new perspective, maybe think about some things that they hadn't thought about before. That might have been some hurdles that they can now tackle, and maybe move forward with us here in the future.
Do you find that there are business owners that just don't want you getting that close to the business for whatever reason?
There are, and that was probably an issue we, with one of our first clients, a client that we actually had to let go of. That was a main problem that we found out, and so that's something that we have worked to avoid through the discovery call. And so those are things that we're very transparent about up front. Hey, here's what we are going to need, because if this is not something that you're comfortable with, then we're not going to be the right fit for you. Because in order to manage your website and things like that, we need to be in the back end of the website. We need to have access to the domain hosting. We need to have access to your Google business profile, your social media accounts, all these different things. So it is not an issue, but it is something that we encounter, with prospects. But for clients, it's not a problem at all. At the end of the day, they end up telling us they're glad that they don't have to do it themselves and try to figure it out. But yeah, definitely something that we come across for sure.
I know I am often resistant to help of any sort in my business. Some of it's, I'm a control freak in certain areas.
Yeah.
Some of it is I just feel like, hey, it's my business. I don't want to burden them. I'm a martyr, and I wear that badge proudly sometimes. But then when I do get help, then I'm like, well, why didn't I ask before? Yeah. So you don't know how good life can be until you take that leap of faith sometimes. And so I can understand the importance of having to get full buy-in from a client on the front end so that you can give them the experience that they will gladly tell their friends about.
Yeah.
And help them sleep better at night.
Yeah. And that's why, it's the saying that we got to figure out if we are a good fit. And that's a two-way street. To be honest, more often than not, it's a prospect that's not a good fit for us because, when we prospect, we don't blanket. We don't just find a list and start reaching out to everyone. It's very intentional. So my prospecting is a lot different. So I might not reach out to more than 10 businesses in a day, but it's because it's very intentional. I'm looking for problems that I can see that I know we can help them solve. And, with that, there's already kind of a little bit of a pre-screening there, so that definitely helps us overall.
Do you have a particular story or, is there a typical experience where you can say to people, look, here's a case study. We found this client here, we did this with them, and now here's where they are. And, just to let people kind of have an understanding of what you might be able to do for them as well. Yeah.
So I think a great case study, and our longest tenured client is a roofing company that's a little bit north of Cincinnati. And so they had a struggle of not being able to surpass about, I believe it's the $4.5 million mark annually, which, is solid. But, when we came on, we helped them, in a white glove solution way. So not only were we managing things like all of the website, the SEO, ad campaigns, social media, all that kind of stuff, but we also stepped in, we created all of their operational systems. We created all of their documentation. So SOPs, playbooks, hiring manuals, and, we'll put on a hat and a shirt and we will actually hire, sales reps for them. So we'll manage that entire process for them. And so that's kind of, the scope of what we can do for clients. But we also have, lower level packaged clients that, just want us kind of managing the marketing aspects. Maybe they are smaller operations. They're maybe doing 500,000 to $1 million a year. They might have a couple employees and, they can't afford, a significant budget to really, grow their business significantly. And so, we offered those lower packages so that we can grow with that business as we help grow it.
Yeah, that's smart, because when you start talking about things you can help with as a business owner, I'm thinking, sounds expensive. Yeah. So then you automatically get your guard up a little bit and you're resistant. But if you let them know that, hey, it's a kind of a crawl, walk, run type of a system, or can be anyways, then people will say, okay, well, let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and I like that you use the word expensive, because it's not something I shy away from, because I hear that all the time. And there's a very big difference between something being expensive and something being costly. And I actually heard this from someone else, but it really kind of resonated with me, because, something that is expensive is only expensive if you don't get the expected value out of it. So it's like if you bought a new car for $50,000 and it just kept breaking down, that's going to be expensive. But, you see and hear of people buying, I don't know, an $800,000 Lamborghini, and you don't hear them talk about it being expensive, because it's not expensive. They get the value that they're looking for out of it. So it's costly. Yes. Objectively costs a significant amount of money, but it's not expensive because your return is greater than your investment.
Yeah. Sometimes the return is emotional.
Yep.
Sometimes it's, time saving. Time is money. So yeah, I get it.
Well, and part of my job is to kind of navigate that with prospects, because I can't tell you how many hundreds of prospects that I've talked to that were all in, and no matter what number I would have said, I could have told you for certain that they would have been scared and fearful of it, just because a lot of times I think a lot of people are, fearful of spending any kind of money, because it's almost like, the fact that our brains keep us from, doing things that it deems are not safe, and so it gets us into kind of a fear state. And so part of what I work on with prospects is just very calmly helping navigate them out of that fear state and get into more of a logical state. So it's like, okay, yeah, maybe it is scary that you're spending this amount of money. Like, I can understand that, because yes, it is a significant amount of money for you. But at the end of the day, when we can talk through and talk about the return that you can get, or all of the additional benefits and the amount of time that's going to save, not only yourself, but also help save with your team, then I ask them at that point, do you feel like that is worth it? And so that's something, again, I kind of do, that's usually a second call, because first call, I don't even know if I can help you yet. So I don't try to close a prospect at that point, because I got to just figure out if we're even the right fit. And we might not be. There's many times where we're not, or there might be somebody else in my network that's a better fit. Like I said, we have connections all over the place. Globally, we have different groups that we're in and entrepreneurial connections and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different people that touch all kinds of different things that we usually can connect somebody with.
I find a lot of business owners are afraid of what is around the corner that they don't know is coming. And so they want to hoard their cash. They want to just sort of stay in a bunker, and they're afraid to take that leap of faith. So I'm a big analogy guy. So I've used the analogy, hey, I know you don't want to jump off the cliff, but I'm going to hold your hand. We're going to jump off together. Down there's this giant trampoline that's going to propel us even higher than where you started. And you just kind of have to let them understand that you're not alone in this. I'm not just selling you a widget and then waving goodbye. This is something that we're going to make course corrections. We're going to make sure that it's working for you. So psychology is a funny thing,
It is.
Human nature is kind of tough to overcome sometimes.
That it is. I think it is truly the hardest thing in life is that internal mental battle and trying to continually develop yourself and understand there are times like, for example, yesterday I woke up, and I might be getting a little sidetracked here, but woke
That's
up
fine.
to work out. I work out early in the morning, 5 a.m. And I go to a workout, class place called Orange Theory. And I get a text at 4:40, the power's out. My first thought is, oh yes, I can go back to bed. Like, cool. And I've been working very hard lately to not ever take the easy route.
Mm-hmm.
And so I internally asked myself, I said, okay, would I be more proud of myself if I went back to bed
Mm-hmm.
or if I just went to the gym still?
Yeah.
And so the answer, super obvious. And so I initially was like, all right, I'm going to the gym. I have a box with some camping supplies in the basement. I got a bunch of lights and stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to bring a few of those lanterns and stuff I have, and I'm just going to make it work. And I get there and the power gets turned right back on when I get there. So,
good.
But the biggest thing is, kind of back to that point of the mental battle. It's very easy to be in the moment and feel like we don't want to do something or something can be scary. And so, part of my job is to, like I said, help navigate prospects through that and get them out of that kind of fear state, or even that state of, I don't feel like doing something, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you feel. It's really only what you do. And so yesterday I didn't feel like I wanted to work out. I wanted to go back to bed. But my action showed that, hey, I went and worked out. I did this. It was hard, but I feel a lot better. I feel proud of myself for doing that. And so by doing things, even when you don't want to do them, is very important, because that's kind of the discipline that I am working on within myself.
That's one of the definitions of success, is doing something you don't want to do. So I'm bad at that. I would have went back to sleep. The part of the story that you left out, the workout story, is you didn't want your wife shaming you or giving you crap.
Well, that's probably
I'm just kidding, though.
part of it. Also, she's a little over halfway through the pregnancy. So, I would not feel too great if she was kicking my butt halfway into,
Speaking of that, building a baby. So this is your first child, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And let's shout out your wife. What's your wife's name?
Chrissy.
Okay. So how long have you been married to Chrissy?
We have been married for a little over a year and a half.
Okay.
Been together.
You're still newlyweds.
Just over 4 years at this point. We've been together.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. What does she do?
So she is a nurse practitioner.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Where does she work at around here?
St. Elizabeth.
Oh, another Saney employee. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Shout out Saney. Okay. Well, very good. And you mentioned a partner earlier. I believe his name is Joe.
Yes.
Okay. How did you meet Joe?
So back in my old job, so I used to kind of manage like the sales and distribution for a wireless company for my territory that was the eastern half of the U.S. And Joe worked with one of my distribution partners, and he kind of did the marketing and operations for them. And so that's how we initially connected. I supported their team and their distribution network. And so that's been probably, it's 2025. So that's been about 4.5 years at this point. Okay. And he had always put a bug in my ear about, coming to the other side, going away from kind of the normal corporate 9-to-5 environment, and, building something that I own, that I can control. And so he was a big proponent of that. It took about a year of him kind of throwing that out there to me to just.
So you were a tough sell too.
Yeah. Well, it's not something that anyone I know has done or tried to do. Yeah. Nobody in my network, nobody in my family or friends, at that time that had actually taken a leap from something that was good and stable and, could live off of and not have to ever worry. And so I think I'm a little bit crazy. And I think everyone that does, kind of the entrepreneurial journey is, because you have to be different than everyone else to do it. And so I just made the leap. I woke up one day and I was like, I'm doing it. I don't exactly know what I'm going to be doing, but I know I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. None of us knows what's, like I said before, around the corner, what's coming tomorrow. But what today looks and feels like. And if your heart of hearts, your gut's telling you, do I want to stay here the rest of my life, or a version of this? Those people that know that they're built for something else, they don't always know what that is exactly. But when something is placed in front of them, I think they see it as pulling them towards that. And, Lord only knows where you're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But something tells me that this was a good choice on your part.
Yeah, and it definitely is. And it has been. I mean, it has not been easy, that's for sure, especially the first few months of, okay, what do I do? Where do I provide the most value? What's my experience? How can I help people and who can I help? And so I spent a lot of time, money, and energy to figure that out. And I paid people, I paid a guy from the UK to dial in like a one-page plan, which I've never done before. What's my ultimate goal in life? What's my dream outcome? What are the values that I want to hold as a person? What are the characteristics that person has to have? And what are the things I have to do on a daily basis to become that ideal version of myself, which is crazy. It's like I was almost 30 at that point, and never once did I even think about any of those things. But that was a big proponent that helped me kind of learn more about myself and kind of have that North Star of, okay, here is kind of the blueprint of the person, I want to be and how to become that person. So that was a very difficult part of the journey as well, though. Yeah. Again, trying to figure that out. And also, just meeting with people and generating no revenue for months because I was still just trying to figure out, trying to talk to businesses, trying to talk to different people, see how I can help them, see what their problems are, and what might we be able to do to help them.
So when I talk to entrepreneurs, and that's pretty much what I do, oftentimes the conversation snippets of it sound like a life coaching session. So, some of that just came out of your mouth, like life coaching stuff. Yeah, stuff that a life coach might say to you, and you're living it, so you're saying it because it's true. Yeah.
No, and I mean, I've paid multiple coaches and been in multiple different entrepreneurial programs online and different communities and networks of other entrepreneurs, and so I think that is probably what kind of led to what's been hardest with it all, just for the fact that it opened up my eyes to the realization that I don't want to be like anyone else. I don't want to be like everyone else. And when I realized that, it was literally like something in me like clicked, like, okay, like this is a lot. Like, I don't want to do these things, like all these things I've done for my whole life, like, or, gone out to the bars every weekend, or do all these things that don't fit that ideal version of myself. And that has been difficult and still is, because when you're changing and most of the people around you are not, and they're not wanting to grow, they don't have any kind of goals or dreams or ambitions, you can't really stay in all of those same circles. So that has by far been the most difficult part of the process, is kind of letting go of some of the things that aren't, supposed to be part of your future.
Right. Yeah. I think, especially me being a lot older than you, I still see a lot of people that, they're still stuck in high school days, and there's a lot of reasons for that. There's family stuff, there's just internal stuff, whatever. But they either, if you stay in that sphere for too long, you can love them and honor them and everything, but if you stay there for too long, they will either drag you down or at least make you feel sad.
Yeah.
And so it can't, you can't let it infect you.
Yeah.
Life is a constant, self-discovery journey. And we're not supposed to stay where we are forever. And we become different people as we age and as we gain experience. And you're headed somewhere. You don't know where you're headed, but you're doing it the right way. You're pushing yourself.
Yeah.
I don't think I pushed myself nearly as hard at your age as I should have.
That's a tough thing to say, though, because I have the same thought when, in some of these groups I'm in, I see 18-year-olds that have built, a 7-figure business.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And, so it's like you could always say that and look back and kind of compare like somebody else. Like, I wish I knew earlier. And like, do I wish I knew at 18? Yeah, that would be cool. But that gets me nowhere.
Yeah.
It provides no value or benefit that I can use. So another thing I've been working on, because when things like that pop up, or thoughts that don't provide any value, that don't help you achieve what you're going for, then I just try to immediately pull them out. And sometimes I will physically act like I'm pulling it out. I'm getting rid of that thought.
Yeah. Create that mental version so that it takes root.
Yeah.
In my day, growing up, when I was a kid, we were supposed to get a job working at the car factory and stay on that assembly line or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe get into management where you can actually sit down in an air-conditioned office, and then you collected your pension, and then you died. But those days are kind of gone, but yet there are still some people in that mentality. They just want to be taken care of by somebody. So taking those leaps of faith can be hard, and you're one of the people that are there to kind of help people see a brighter future for themselves, maybe sometimes that they even can't see. Yeah. So good on you for that. Before we sign off, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you would like to say, or a story, a cautionary tale, anything?
Yeah, so there is one thing that comes to mind, because at the end of the day, we can help a lot of businesses. Not everyone's going to be the right fit. That's why we do the discovery. But I'll give an example of, a reason why it's important to understand that we can pretty much do everything for you. The saying of, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So for example, we've never lost any client, and we also don't have contracts. We don't require contracts because we deliver the value and then some month after month, and we don't need contracts. That's how, confident we are in the fact that we know what we do and we know the value we bring, and our clients see that. So we have let go of a couple clients, however.
Okay.
And so one of them in particular did great work. They were a service-based business, and it seemed initially like a good fit very early on in us, doing this business. And we took them on. It was somebody that kind of referred us to them. And we did a lot of work for this company and essentially set up everything from creating a fully SEO optimized website, setting up the Google business profile, posting content, managing social media accounts, backlinks, all kinds of stuff.
Something any business owner should be very grateful for. And
yes. And,
love.
but we had a lot of learning lessons through that because we were actually generating leads for this client. And within our system, we track all of that. So part of our job is to make sure like, hey, we're staying on top of these things with you. And so we actually would get notifications about new leads and we would see that he wouldn't be responding to them.
Okay.
And there was a time in particular where a lead wasn't responded to. They reached out about an hour after the appointment was scheduled. And then the owner finally decided to leave his business and go out to the appointment and showed up about an hour and 40 minutes past the initial time, sent over a quote to the homeowner that was almost 3 times what 2 other competitors' quotes were, reputable competitors. And when we had asked about, pricing information so that we could get an understanding like, hey, let's figure out why is this so much higher? Let's figure out this price sheet with you. And, wouldn't disclose any information to us. And so at that point, we just decided, hey, we basically did a lot of this work for you for free. Here it is. Here's all your information. Here's your website. Here's everything you need to know. But, we no longer want to, be working with somebody that, can't get out of their own way. And, additionally is not going to kind of do their part because
what's the point?
Yeah. And we can, again, we can lead the horse to water, but we can't make it drink. So there is, part of it that is always on the homeowner or I'm sorry, on the client.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's important to note that it's not just all of your problems aren't just going to go away, but you're going to have better problems. So instead of not having enough leads or, your business kind of being chaotic, you don't have, the operations in place to be able to manage communications with customers or even manage your team and hire the right people, those are problems and those are difficult problems. But, say you double your business because we came in and we helped you and we were able to help you, kind of take some of your time back, streamline a few things for you, dial in all of your marketing and start generating leads for you. Now at this point, you're going to have a problem of, I might have to hire 3 more people. I might have to hire a couple sales guys. I might have to hire, somebody in-house just as a VA or, a receptionist to be able to field all of these calls. And so again, I think it's important to note for business owners that, there are always going to be problems, but the goal is to have better problems, bigger problems. What are we going to do with this money that we have left over at the end of the year? We don't want to pay all these taxes on it. So again, that's kind of the ultimate goal that, we have for our clients is just have them in bigger and better problems.
Some people self-sabotage because they're afraid of success, and that's a thing. And I know that's a thing. You hear about it all the time. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly why that is, but it's a thing.
Yep.
And so, but that's another topic that we can really dive into, but we are out of time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming in and just kind of sharing with us what you can do. Any business owners out there, one thing you said is no contracts. And I think that's also another thing. People, if they get battered and bruised by a contract, they will hold that against any other company for the rest of their life that wants them to sign a contract, because that one singular experience, sometimes they can't get over it. Yeah. So at least with you and the fact that you can step them through it and kind of gently guide them to a place where they should be, you help them create that vision. I think that's pretty powerful. So if that's you, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, or anybody in an organization that needs Drew's services, Drew, how do they reach you?
So they can reach us at kenshoai.com.
Spell that.
KENSHOAI.com.
Okay.
And that's going to give them a list of kind of all of our marketing packages and solutions and things that we can provide, so they can contact us directly through there. And we will be reaching out to them within 24 hours.
Okay. Fair enough. And when I post the podcast, I'll make sure your phone number is listed as well.
Yeah.
So it's time to say goodbye now. So Drew, look in the camera right there. Say thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
So everybody, we'll be back soon with another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. And we are the Good Neighbor Podcast. So until next time, we ask you all to please be good to your neighbor. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Union. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpunion.com. That's gnpunion.com, or call us at 859-651-8330.